these are all the questions on consumer arithmetic for the last 10 years, right? So this first question is from January 2026. Alana and Brentnall share 17,400 in the ratio Alana to Brentnall, that is 8 to 7. Show that Alana receives $9,280. Well, guys, anything to do with ratios has to do with shares, right? So in this question, Alana is getting 8 shares and Brentnall gets 7 shares. So there are two ways that you could approach, or maybe even more than two, but two that I will talk about today. Two approaches that you can take when you have to solve something, a problem involving ratios, right? Well, of course, like I said, it has to do with shares. So Alana receives 8 shares and Brentnall receives 7 shares. So together, the total number of shares here would be 8 plus 7, which is 15 shares. So we can find out what one share is by simply dividing the total by 15, because 15 shares is equal, that'll be the total amount, right? The total number of shares will be equal to 17,400. And if we know that 15 shares is equal to 17,400, then one share will be equal to 17,400 divided by 15, which is, and you all could check this too, 17,400 divided by 15. I got 1,160. If anybody got something different, please tell me. All right, so one share is equal to $1,160. So therefore, Alana, who received 8 shares, would therefore have 1,160 times 8, which is equal to 9,280. And that's what we needed to show,
Yes.
right? So we said to show that Alana receives that, and we have just shown that. So you
Yeah.
write QED,
Yeah, miss.
right? So that's one way that you could have done it. The next way that you could have done it is you could think of it in terms of fractions. Again, it will be 8. This part here would be 8/15, and this one will be 7/15. The denominator, as is custom, or with any fraction, the denominator tells us the total number of parts. So the total number of parts in this whole would be 8 plus 7. That's where I got 15 from. So therefore, Alana gets whatever is the amount of money. Alana would get 8/15 of that, where Brentnell will get 7/15 of it. So to show that Alana got 9,280, you can simply say 8 over 15 times 17,400. That's the total amount of money. And you will still get $9,280. All right, guys? So any one of those methods
Yeah, miss.
for a ratio question. Ratios is just all about um shares, and you can do it with fractions as well. So the next part, Alana invests her share of money into a business venture, earning simple interest at a rate of 4.5% per annum. She receives $2,088 in interest. Determine the number of years that she invested her money. So she invested her share of money, right? So her share of money was given to us in the previous question, which is 9,280. That is called the principal, right? That's the principal. Then it says it's a rate of 4% per annum. So that's your rate. The interest is $2,088, and we need to calculate the number of years. So we need to calculate the time, right? So if we think about the formula for simple interest, the formula for simple interest is equal to principal times rate times time. all over 100. All right. Now, if you want to find time instead, we would need to make t the subject of the formula. So that would mean, well, I will move 100 to the other side, and because it's divided here, I'll have to multiply by it on the other side. So it will be interest times 100, and then it will be divided by principal times rate. So we do interest times 100 divided by principal times rate. That is how you calculate the time. If you wanted to calculate the rate, it's the same thing, except it'll be interest times 100 divided by principal times time. If you wanted to calculate the principal, it'll be interest times 100 divided by rate times time. So it's all about just rearranging the interest formula to make whatever you're trying to find as the subject. So we can simply substitute our values into the new formula where t is the subject. Principal is, sorry, interest is 2,088, right? Because that's the interest that she received on her principal balance. So it'll be 2,088 times 100 divided by the principal. That's her share of money, which was given to us before, 9,280, times the rate, which is 4.5. And now we just type all of this into the calculator. And you could do it like numerator and denominator if you want, or you could use brackets. So like you can do 2088 times 100, and that would give you, I'm just going to write out each thing here. That'll give you 208800 divided by 9280 times 4.5. That is 41760. And then you divide 208800 divided by 41760, and you should get 5. So therefore, the number of years that she invested her money would be 5 years, right? So you can do it all like that, or you could have typed it in directly on your calculator using brackets. So open brackets, 2088 times 100, close brackets, divided by, open brackets, 9280 times 4.5, close brackets, and you'll get 5 as well. So however you want to work it out on your calculator, it's fine. Just make sure you, if you're typing it in all at once, use your brackets just to be sure, just to be safe, right? So this question was from this year, January 2026. Let's look at May 2025. It says Miranda earns $8,316 per month. She spends 4/7 of her earnings on utility bills, food, and personal items and saves the remainder. What percentage of her money does she save? So the percentage of her monthly salary that she saves, well, it told us, sorry, that she saves the remainder. She spent 4/7 and she saved the remainder. Guys, what fraction is saved then? If 4/7 was spent, what fraction is saved?
3/7.
Correct. The savings will be 3/7, right? And then you change 3/7 to a percentage, which will be 3/7 times 100 over 1. Let's see what that gives us. 3 over 7 times 100. It's 42 and 6/7%, or 42.86%. Right? So it's going to be 42 and 6 over 7%. Or if you prefer to write it as a decimal, it'll be 42.86% taken to taken to 2 decimal places. All right? The portion of her earnings spent on utility bills, food, and personal items is divided in the ratio 5:3:4 respectively. Calculate the amount of money she spends on personal items. Well, firstly, if we look at the ratio, it says respectively, which means it's in the same order, right? So it would be 5 would be utility bills, 3 would be food, and then personal items is 4. So 5 shares represent utility bills, 3 shares represent food, and 4 shares represent personal items. We are required to calculate the amount of money she spends on personal items. So, like I said, you can either do it in terms of shares, like how we did it here, right, to find the total shares, or you can look at it in terms of fractions. You still need to know the total shares so that you get the denominator, right? So to get the denominator here, you would say 5 plus 3 plus 4. 5 plus 3 plus 4 is 12. So therefore, the the ratio here, utilities will be 5 out of 12. Food is 3 out of 12. And then the personal items, which we are interested in, is 4 out of 12, which can be reduced to be 1/3. So 1/3 of the portion of her earnings spent on utility bills, food, and personal items is spent on personal items alone. So in order to work it out, we already know what fraction is spent on personal items. We need to know how much money that would be. But we first need to find out how much that portion represents. So they told us in the first part of the question that she spends 4/7 of her earnings on those 3 things. So we first need to find out what 4/7 is. So 4/7 of 8316 is, and you'll check it too, just in case. 4/7 times 8316 is, according to my calculator, 4,752. Anybody could vouch for that, please? 4/7 of 8316. Is it indeed 4752?
Yeah.
Okay. So then, so that is the portion of her money that is spent on these things, 4,752. So now 1/3 of that is spent on personal items. So we check what is 1/3 of 4,752. Let's see what that would give us. I got 1,584. Anybody else? 1,584. Please let me know. 1,584. Is that correct, guys?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes, miss.
perfect. Oh, hi, Zach. It's so nice to hear from you. Welcome. Welcome,
Hi,
Zach.
miss.
Okay, Miranda saves the same amount of money each month, so that her annual savings from her earnings is $42,768. All right, so in order to show that, we would need to see how much money she makes in a month. And then annually would be 12 months, right? So we'll have to multiply that by 12. Now we already know that the amount of money she saves is 3/7 of her earnings for the month. So we need to check what is 3/7, right? So monthly, or we could say 1 month is equal to 3/7 of her $8,316, which would be 3/7 times 8316, which according to my calculations is 3,564. So then for 12 months, because annually would be 12 months. So for 12 months, if 1 month is 3,564, then 12 months will be 3,564 times 12. And that is in fact equal to 42,768. So we have shown it. We say QED by your solution. Okay, she invests the $42,768 in her credit union, which pays compound interest of 5% per annum. What is the total interest earned after 2 years. Okay. So the final amount when the principal is invested, compound interest at rates R for n number of years is given by A is equal to principal times 1 plus R over 100 raised to the power of n. Now this formula gives you the total amount at the end of the number of years. So that includes the principal plus the interest, right? They're only asking us for the total interest earned. So we'll have to use this formula, right? We'll have to use that formula, and then we would subtract whatever we get there from her, well, subtract the principal from that, and that would be the interest earned. Because interest in this case would be equal to amount minus principal, where amount is the final amount after the 2-year period. So first, let's check what A would be equal to. Amount will be principal, which is 42768 multiplied by 1 plus the rate, which is 5. So 5 over 100 raised to the power of n. In this case, n is 2 years. So raised to the power of 2. That gives me, on your calculator, 42768, open brackets, 1 plus 5 over 100. So you could literally type it in exactly as is, raised to the power of 2, and you'll get 47,151.72. That's the value you should get on your calculator, right? So now to find the interest will be equal to that, right? That 47,151.72. That's the total amount of money she would have in the account at the end of 2 years. So to find out what's the interest earned, you'll subtract the original amount of money that she invested, which is the principal. So that's 42768. So minus 42768, and I got $4,383.72. So that's the end of that question, guys. Please let me know if you're lost, if you're stuck anyway, stop me, guys, because I'm just gonna be going on with these questions, right? I'll send you all some notes on these things afterwards because I do have it written
Okay,
somewhere.
miss.
Um, but I find that it's best, like these things are best taught in practice, not just theory. Like learning off the what the things are is one thing, and yes, you do have to know certain things. Like you need to know that a profit is when the selling price is greater than the cost price, and to calculate a profit, you minus the cost price from the selling price. Like you need to know those things theoretically as well. You need to know how to apply it in questions, right? Okay, so Mahindra and Jaya shared $7,224 in the ratio of 7 to 5. How much more money does Mahindra receive than Jaya? So several ways to do it, right? One way, you can just find out how much Mahindra earns, how much Jaya earns, and then subtract it from each other. That's definitely one way that you could do it. Or you can also realize that well, the total here, the ratio of Mahindra to Jaya is 7/12 to 5/12, right? Because the total number of shares here is 7 plus 5, which is 12. So that means the fraction that represents Mahindra's shares will be 7/12, whereas the fraction that represents Jaya's shares will be 5/12. And they're just asking us how much more money does Mahindra receive. As you can see, if Mahindra receives 7/12 and Jaya receives 5/12, then that means the difference is 2/12, right? 7 take away 5 over 12 is 5 over 12, sorry, is 2/12, which is 1/6. So really and truly, Mahindra gets 1/6 more than Jaya. So you can now just check what is 1/6 of 7,224. Check that for me, please. I'll check it as well. 1/6 of 7,224. I got $1,204. Somebody confirm it for me, please. Is it in fact $1,204?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect, right? Wonderful. Next, Micah invests a certain amount of money in a bank that pays compound interest at a rate of 2.5% per annum. At the end of 2 years, the value of her investment is $7,564.50. Calculate the amount of money Micah or Mika invest. So in this one, we have the rate, 2.5% is the rate. We have the time, N, 2 years, and we have the amount. And we are required to find the amount of money that she invested. So that is the principal. All right. So therefore, to find the principal, we have to work backwards, right? So um, we have to make P the subject of the formula. So if A is equal to P times 1 plus,
Yes.
yeah?
I could do this with you. I don't do it already.
Oh, you did it already? Yeah, tell
Yeah.
me what you have to do.
Alright, so after you need to find the principal amount, so you have to put um this one $7,564.50 equals to P bracket 1 plus 2.5 over 100 close bracket squared, right? Then you put the thing over, but then this time is just 0.025,
Where?
and then when you
Sorry.
add it,
Wait. Tell me.
you-
After this line, what
you're
is it?
doing you're doing it over again, except for the
Okay.
inside the brackets, it's turning into 1.025. And you put
Right.
them at the brackets and everything.
Okay, 1.025. Yeah.
Squared, right? And then put it back down
Mhm.
equals 1.025 by 1.025
Yeah. Which is what?
um equals to 1.050625, and
Yeah.
that will
By
become
P.
the equation. Yeah,
Yeah.
by P. Then that will become the equation.
Hmm.
So P equals 7,564.50 per year over 1.0500625, and the answer is P equals to 7,200.
Excellent.
That's how much Mike invested.
Beautiful. Did you just do this
Yeah.
while we were um
Yep.
while I was explaining the other one, or you did it before?
No, I do it while you're explaining.
Oh, nice. Okay, good. The answer is 7,200. Excellent work, Aaron, and very good steps. Perfect, right?
Very much.
So, guys, exactly as Aaron said it, this is the exact working, right? So, the easiest way to do it is to actually substitute the values in here and then simplify them. Because if you just like try to change the subject or the formula from here, it could get a little tricky. So, substituting the actual values into the equation would help you to manipulate the equation more easily, right? And if you want to check back to see if your answer is correct, well, you substitute 7,200 into the actual formula. So let's see if we substitute that, if we get it back. So that would be the principal is 7,200 by 1 plus um, 2.5 over 100 to the power of 2. So if we do that on our calculators, we'll get, let's see if we get it. Yes, you do get it. You get $7,564.50. So it is actually correct. Excellent work, Aaron. Okay, let's look at this question, guys. This
Yeah,
is a
Miss Thomas.
wages question. Harish works at a call center for 35 hours each week. He is paid an hourly rate of $11.20. Calculate the amount of money Harish earns in a 4-week month. Okay, so he works 35 hours each week and he earns $11.20 per hour. So in 1 week, he'll earn 35 times $11.20, which is 35 times 11.2 is $392. Okay, so this is how much Harish earns in 1 week. So therefore, in a 4-week month, that's 4 weeks. So it will be 392 times 4, which gives me 1,568. Anybody else got this? $1,568 for Harish.
Yeah, Miss,
Y'all,
I get it.
Yeah.
beautiful. Okay. All right. Um, in a certain week, Harish works 8 hours overtime. Overtime hours are paid at 1.5 times the usual rate of $11.20 per hour. Find the total amount of money Harish is paid for that week. So, guys, this is called time and a half, right? So, if you ever see time and a half, this is what it is, right? Time and a half means it's 1.5 times the usual rate. So the overtime rate here would be the usual rate is $11.20. So the overtime rate would be $11.20 times 1.5, which gives me 11.2 times 1.5.
Sixteen
I
dollars
got
and 80 cents.
perfect. $16.80. So for every hour of overtime work, he makes $16.80. So therefore, if he works for 8 hours overtime, then 8 hours overtime would be $16.80 times 8. 1680 times 8, which is 100
134.40 cents. Yeah.
Yes, $134.40. So the total he would work for that week will be his typical 392, right? Because remember, it's 35 hours he works for in a week and he makes $392. So your total would be your basic wage, which is the amount that you make per week for your regular time. So in Harish's case, it's $392 plus whatever amount of money you work for your overtime hours. So it'll be 392 plus 134.4. How much is that? 392 plus 134.4.
$526.40.
That's correct. $526.40. Perfect. I hope everybody following, other than just Fired and Aaron, because they're the only two people I'm hearing from today. So I hope everybody else, you're quiet, but it means that you're following. All right. Ria invested $219 of her earnings for 3 years at a rate of 4.5% per annum, simple interest. How much interest does she receive after 3 years? So $219 of her earnings for 3 years at a rate of 4.5% per annum simple interest. Now, I find the wording of the question itself is a little tricky because I don't know if they mean $219 each year for 3 years, meaning that that's 219 times 3, like that's the total amount of money she invested, or if it's just that the time is 3 years. So I'm not sure because I find the wording to be a little ambiguous. But we're just going to look at it as if the principal is 219. the time is 3, and the rate is 4.5, right? So we'll do it both ways. So
I get you.
if you're just looking at the principal as $219, then it would be interest is 219 times 3 times 4.5 all over 100. So this would be if we're looking at it in that way. So that would be 219 times 3 times 4.5 all over 100, which would be $29.57. So that'll be how much interest she receives, right? So that's if it was like that. Now, if it is that they mean $219 for every year for 3 years, then the total of that will be 219 times 3 times times 4.5 all over 100. So you'll just multiply that number by 3, basically, right? So I don't know what they mean. Sometimes I find that they give these questions a little ambiguously. So this answer will be 88 dollars and 60, well, more 70 cents because it's two decimal places. It's 88.695, but it's money you're dealing with, so it'll have to be two decimal places. So I'm not sure. I'll take a look into this question, into the actual solutions, and see what they wanted for this question. But it's one of these would be the answer. All right. Let's look at this question from May 2022. Children go to a rodeo camp during the Easter holiday. Miss Rika buys bananas and oranges for the children at the camp. Bananas cost $3.85 per kilogram. Miss Rika bought 25 25 kilograms of bananas and receives a discount of 12%. How much money does she spend on the bananas? Well, first let's find out what's the total cost before the discount. So if 1 kg is equal to 3.85, then 25 kgs will be equal to 3.85 times 25, which gives me 3.85 times 25. Fired, is it $96.25?
Yes.
All right. So that's the full price that she would pay for it. Now, guys, if it's a discount of 12%, there are two ways you could work out the final price. Either by finding 12% of $96.25 and then subtracting that from $96.25, or if it's a discount of 12%, that's a percentage decrease. So she'll be paying, instead of 100%, she'll be paying 100 minus 12, which is 88%. So she'll actually be paying 88% of the original cost. So I like to do it like that.
I
So
get
it'll be
for that part, I do the 0.12 multiply by 96. Wait, $96.25, I get $11.55.
okay. And what's the answer for the full? How much money does she spend?
Wait,
I
the
got,
final answer,
yeah, the final answer.
$84.70.
Correct. Right? So $84.70. So you could have done what Aaron did by finding 12% of 96.25 and then minusing that from 96.25. Or you could have done what I did, which is just finding 88% of $96.25 to give you $84.70. Okay. Miss Rika spends $165 and what am I saying? $165.31 inclusive of a sales tax of 15% on the oranges. Calculate the original price of the oranges. So guys, for this one, if the $165.31 is inclusive of 15%, it means that this price, $165.31, will be with 115% of the original price. So 115% is equal to $165.31. You know why? Well, a sales tax of 15% would be a percentage increase. The original price of anything is 100%, right? So if you increase it by adding a sales tax, it's now going to be worth more than 100%. It'll be worth 100 plus whatever the percentage increase is. So if the sales tax is 15%, then this price is actually going to be 100 plus 15%, which is 115%. And we need to find out what is 100%, right? The same is true for the discount, where, well, it's not, well, it's like alternative B, right? Where, on the contrary, sorry, if it's a percentage decrease, instead of adding to 100, you would minus from 100. So you see in this one, when she received a discount of 12%, that would be a percentage decrease because she will no longer be paying 100% of the value. She would be paying 12% less, which is why I found 88%, right? So a percentage decrease would carry down the percentage, and a percentage increase, like sales tax, would be carrying up the percentage. So 115% is equal to $165.31. So therefore, to find 100%, right, you would have to, well, you'd have to divide 165.31 by 115 and then multiply it by 100, right? So 165.31 over 115 times 100 over 1. And that would be your answer. So let's see, 165.31 over 115 times 100, which is equal to $143.75. Okay, guys, please note that this is not the same as finding 15% of 165.31 and then subtracting it from 165.31. That is not correct, right? Let me show you why. If I were to find 15% of 165.31, that would be 15% of 165.31 would actually be $24.80. And when I add that to 165.31, look what this gives me. 4 plus 5 is 10 plus 1, 11. 2 plus 6 is 8. $181.11. So you see, that is not correct, right? No, sorry, I wouldn't have to add it. I'll have to minus it. Sorry. There. So if I minus the $24.80 from 165.31, 165.31 minus 24.80, that would give me $140.51. So many people got this as the answer. That is wrong. Because if you work backwards now and you check what is 15% of this and then add it back to this, you should get 165.31, right? Well, let's see what you'll get. You'll end up getting, well, 15% of this is 21.08. And that plus 140.51 is actually 161.59, which is not the same as 165.31, right? So let me tell you again, students do this wrong all the time. They'll see this 165 is inclusive of a sales tax, and for some reason they do 15% of this value. That is not correct, right? What you need to do is you need to equate 165.31 to the fact that it's 115% of the original price. So to find the original price is the same as finding 100%, right? So if 115% is 165.31, then 100% will be 165 divided by 115, that would be what 1% is worth, and then you multiply by 100 to get what 100% is, and that's your value. So if I were to check what is 15% of 143.75? 143.75 times 15% is $21.56. And if I add that to 143.75, I should get 165.31. Let's see. 143.75 plus 21.56. Yep, I get my 165.31, which is the cost of the oranges inclusive of tax. So please be careful with questions like this. All right, the ratio of the number of bananas to the number of oranges is 2 to 3. All right, so bananas to oranges is 2 to 3. Furthermore, there are 24 more oranges than bananas. Calculate the number of bananas Miss Rika bought. Okay, well, guys, the difference in the oranges and the bananas here is simply that the oranges is one share more than the bananas, right? Because the bananas is equal to 2 shares and the oranges is equal to 3 shares. So the difference is that the oranges is one share more than the bananas. So therefore, the oranges, that one share is equal to 24 because it says it's 24 more oranges. So that difference of one share is equal to 24 fruits, right? And in total, you have 2 plus 3, which is 5 shares. So then 5 shares would be equal to, oh, but we don't even need to find that. We just need to find out how much is 2 shares. So if one share is 24, then 2 shares, which is the amount that the bananas are equal to, would be 24 times 2, which is 48 bananas. So that's one way to do it. The next way you could have said, well, you could use fractions. You can say that bananas is 2/5 and oranges is 3/5. So the difference there is 1/5, which means that 1/5 is equal to 1/5 is equal to 24. So then 2/5 would be equal to 24 times 2, right? Which is the same, still 48 bananas. All right, everybody's with me. Let me take a little stock check here. Eliana, how are we going so far? Following?
Yes, miss.
Okay. Fired and Aaron, I'm hearing from you all along. Imani, how are we going there, honey?
Good, miss.
All right, Jazara.
Good, miss.
All right. Hi, Shaniqua, how are we? How are we doing?
I'm doing fine, miss.
All right. Zaydan. Zaydan, you there? Zaydan. Ah, no Zaydan. All right. Ria is paid at a rate of $13.50 per hour. During a certain week, she worked 40 hours. How much did she earn that week? Simply $13.50 times 40. That is 13.5 times 40, $540. Is that correct, guys? 13.5 times 40,
Yeah, miss.
540. All right. Ria worked 4 weeks in the month of August, and her gross earnings was $2,463.75. Her regular week comprised 40 hours, and overtime was paid at 1.5 times the hourly rate. Show that Ria worked 15 hours overtime in August. Well, first, we need to show that the amount of money she earned in August is more than she would earn in a regular month, in a regular 4-week month, because that's the only way that it means she would have had overtime hours. right? So first thing, we'll say her regular or her basic or regular 4-week wage. So basic monthly wage, right? So the word basic and regular can be used interchangeably. It just represents the normal working hours, right? So her basic monthly wage would be equal to 540 times 4 because that's for a 40-hour week, right? So 540 times 4 is 2160. So therefore, she did make more money in that month. So that means she would have had to work extra hours, right? So the overtime wage then would be her overtime wage would be the amount of money she earned that month minus her basic wage. So that would be $2,463.75. Take away 2160. That gives me 2463.75. Take away 2160 is $303.75. So in that month, she earned $303.75 overtime, right? So to calculate number of hours, we need to divide her overtime wage by her overtime rate. So let's write down what her overtime rate is. Now they told us that her overtime rate is time and a half. It's 1.5 times the hourly rate. So overtime rate would be, what was it? Right, 1350. So it's 1350 times 1.5. That is 13.5 times 1.5. I got $20.25. Right? So number of hours overtime, number of hours overtime would be the wage, which is $303.75 divided by the rate, which is $20.25. So that is 303.25, sorry, 0.75 divided by 20.25 is equal to 15 hours. And so we have shown it. We write QED, which basically means proven, right? In August, 20% of Ria's gross earnings was deducted as tax. How much money does she have left after the deduction? So you could do it both ways. You could find out what's 20% of her earnings, the 2463.75, and then subtract it, or you can find 80% of that because if it's 20% deducted, that's a percentage decreased. So she will not be receiving a full 100% of her earnings. She will just be receiving 80% of her earnings. But let's just do it the way that I think most students do it anyway. So we'll do tax. Tax is equal to 20% or 0.2 times 2463.75. That is $492.75. $492.75. So therefore, her net earnings. So guys, net is how much you get after deductions are made. Gross is how much you have before any deductions are made. So her net earnings will be 2463.75 minus 492.75. Let's see what that is. 2463.75 minus 492.75. I got 1971. Anybody else got that? $1,971.
Yeah, miss.
Perfect. And let me see if I had just calculated it by finding 80%. It would have been 2463.75 times 0.8, which will give you $1,971. Okay. Oh, wait, I don't know. I have this question twice because we just did this. That question we did this here. I don't know how come I have it here and then here as well. So we're just going to move on to May 2019, question 1B. Irma's take-home pay is $4,320 per fortnight. That is every 2 weeks. Each fortnight, Irma's pay is allocated according to the following table. Rent is X, food is $629, other living expenses is 2X, and her savings is $1,750 with a grand total of $4,320, right? So that's how her money is allocated. What is Irma's annual take-home pay, assuming that she works 52 weeks in any given year? So guys, remember, this is the amount that she earns every 2 weeks, right? So there's several ways you could do it. I think the easiest way would just be to divide this by 2, because if this is how much she earns every 2 weeks, then in 1 week she'll earn this divided by 2 and then multiply it by 52, right? So we do 4,320 divided by 2 times 52 over 1. So that would give me 4,320 over 2 times 52. I got $112 and $112,320. Anybody else got that?
Yeah.
112,320. And next way you could have done it, you could have just found out, well, how many groups of 2 weeks do you have in 52? So you divide 52 by 2 and then multiply it by 4,320, which is essentially the same thing here, right? So this is how much Irma will earn in a year, in a 52-week year. Determine the amount of money that Irma allocates for rent each month. Okay, so again, this is her fortnightly pay, right? So what we would have to do is you could just use this to calculate what X is, and then you can multiply that by 2, right? Or you could multiply all of this by 2 and solve for X. I think the easier thing to do is to just find what X is here and then multiply it by 2, right? So let's go. So to do that, we'll have to come up with an equation. We'll do X plus 629 plus 2X plus 1,750 adds up to 4,320. And then simplifying this, I would get 3x plus 629 plus 1,750 is 2,379. That is equal to 4,320. So then 3x will be equal to 4,320 minus 2,379, which is 1,941. So therefore, x is equal to 1,941 divided by 3, which will give me $647. However, that is the amount for 2 weeks. So to get the amount for 4 weeks, you just multiply it by 2. So then the answer will be 647 times 2, right? 647 times 2, which is $1,294. Anybody else got this? $1,294. Anybody works this out? Yes? Any of you worked it out? All right, I guess so.
Forget I was.
Okay, yeah. So you got this fired?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All of Irma's savings is used to pay her son's university tuition cost, which is $150,000. If Irma's pay remains the same and she saves the same amount each month, what is the minimum number of years she must work in order to save enough money to cover her son's tuition? So her savings is 1,750 per for every 2 weeks, right? So for a month, she would be saving 1,750 times 2. So her savings, her monthly savings would be her monthly savings is equal to 1,750 times 2, which is equal to 1750 times 2 is 3,500. So she is saving 3,500 every month. All right. And it says that all of her savings is used to pay her son's university tuition cost, which is a total of 150,000. Okay, fine. Right? If she continues to save that same amount each month, so that means in a year she'll save her yearly savings then, and assuming that the year is well, never mind, we don't need to do it in terms of weeks because we already figured this out for the month. So we'll do 12 months, right? So 3,500 times 12. So in 1 year, she'll save 3,500 times 12, which is 42,000. It's a lot of money. So she saves 42,000 each year. So then to pay off her son's tuition, we would have to find out, we would have to divide 150,000 by 42,000, right? To find out the number of years. So number of years will be 150,000 divided by 42,000, which gives me 150,000 divided by 42,000 is, well, it's a remainder, right? Because it's 3 and 4/7 years. So that means, guys, that the minimum number of years that she must work in order to save enough money, she'll have to work 4 years. The reason it wouldn't be 3 years is because um if she works 3 years alone, that'll just be 3 times 42,000. So she'll only make 126,000 if she works for 3 years alone, right? Because it's 3 and 4/7. She has to work a little bit again, not the full 4th year, but some of it, right? So the minimum number of years will be 4 years. In 4 years, Irma will save 4 times 42,000, which is 168,000. So she'll have more than enough to pay her son's tuition. Okay, let's look at this question. John bought a car for 65,000. If the value of the car depreciates by 8% each year, how much will the car be worth at the end of 2 years? So depreciation, guys, means it is reduced, right? So every year, at the end of the year, the car depreciates by 8%. So that means at the end of each year, the car is now worth 92% of what it originally started with. So in year 1, at the end of year 1, the car will be worth 92% of 65,000, right? So 92% of 65,000. So the car will actually be worth 65,000 times 0.92, which is 59,800. So that will be the worth of the car at the end of year 1. At the end of year 2, right? So at the beginning of year 2, it will be 59,800. So at the end of year 2, it'll be 92% of that new value. So that's how depreciation works, right? You get a new principal every year. Same thing with compound interest. It's a new principal every year. So 92% of that will be 55,016. So the new value of the car at the end of 2 years will be $55,016. That's the shortest way to do it, by the way. The longer way would be to find, you would find 8% of 65,000, right? And then you would subtract that from 65,000 which will give you 59,800. And then you would do 8% of 59,800 and then subtract that from 59,800 to get 55,016. But this is the shorter way to do it, right? So just recognize that if the car is depreciating by 8% each year, at the end of each year, it will be with 92% of whatever price you started with. All right. Mr. Adams invested 5,000 at the credit union and received $5,810 inclusive of simple interest after 3 years. Determine the simple interest earned. Well, this is the amount and this is the principal. So interest is equal to amount minus principal. So that would be 5,810 take away 5,000, which is just $810. So at the end of the 3-year period, the simple interest that he would have earned is the difference in the total amount of money he received minus the principal that he first invested. So that's $810. The annual interest rate paid by the credit union. Okay, so how do we calculate the annual interest rate? Well, remember, the formula for simple interest is principal times rate times time divided by 100. So to make rate the subject of the formula, you just rearrange the formula. So rate is equal to simple interest times 100 divided by principal times time. So that would be the interest was $810 times 100 over the principal, which was 5,000 times the time, which is 3. So that would be 810 times 100 divided by 5,000 times 3. It's 5.4%. Right? So the answer is 5.4%. Okay, so the length of time it will take for Mr. Adams's investment to be doubled at the same rate of interest. So if his investment is to be doubled, that means he has to receive 10,000, right? So his amount will be 10,000, which means that the interest will be 5,000, right? So to make 10,000 to double his investment would mean to make $10,000. And that means that the interest would have to be $5,000. So to find out the time it would take, we do time is equal to interest times 100 divided by principal times rate. So that would be the interest, if it is to be doubled, will be 5,000, right? Times 100 divided by the principal, which is 5,000, times 5.4. So let's see what that would be. 5,000 times 100 divided by 5,000 times 5.4. 18.5. So it would take him 18.5 years before that can be doubled. Another way you could have done it, I think you could have actually divided $18 and, actually, never mind. Fine. Talking trippiness. So yeah, 18.54, right? 100 divided by 5.4, which is 18.5 years. Okay, guys. I know we went non-stop, so I hope everybody's okay so far. Everybody's good, right?
Yeah, miss.
Okay, good. Jenny works at Sammy's restaurant and is paid according to the rates in the following table. Jenny's weekly wage arrangement, $600 is her basic wage. So no matter what, that's how much she'll get, plus 90 cents for each customer served. So for every customer she serves, she'll get 90 cents. right? So if she serves 2 customers, she'll get 90 cents times 2. If she serves 3, it'll be 90 cents times 3. I don't know what kind of wages this is, but anyway. In a week, when Jenny serves N customers, her weekly wage, WJ, in dollars is given by the formula W equals 600 plus 0.90 times N, right? Determine Jenny's weekly wage if she served 230 customers. So her weekly wage, if she served 230 customers, well, that just means that N is equal to 230, right? Because remember, N is the number of customers. So then her weekly wage would be 600, her basic wage, plus 0.90 times 230. So you just put that into your calculator. That would give you 600 plus 0.9 times 230, $807. Is that correct? Let me see. 230 times 0.90. Yes, it's 207. So plus 600 will be $807. In a good week, Jenny's wage is $1,000 or more. What is the least number of customers that Jenny must serve in order to have a good week? Okay, so in a good week, her wage is $1,000 or more. So let's say wage, right? Her wage is equal to $1,000, right? So that means the formula would be 600, her basic wage, plus 0.90 times N. We're trying to find N, right? Because N is the number of customers. In a good week, it'll be 600 plus 0.90 times N is equal to 1,000. So then 0.90N is equal to 1,000. Take away 600, which is 400, and therefore N is equal to 400 divided by 0.9. So that would be 400 divided by 0.9 is 444.4. 444.4. But you can't have a point four of a customer, right? So we should round this up to 445. So she has to serve 445 customers in any given week to have a good week. Now, the reason I round it up to 445 is because I think if you round it down, like if you did 444 instead, you would get less than 1,000. Let's just check back. So you could always just check back to see if it makes sense, right? So we could check to see if 600 plus 0.9 by 444 gives me $1,000. And if it does, we could change it to 444, right? 600 plus 0.9 times 444, which gives me, so that actually gives me 999.6. So that's not $1,000. So that's why I rounded it up to 445, because if you do 445 customers, it'll be, let me see what it would be. It would be $1,000.50, right? So 445 customers is how much she must serve in a week to make at least $1,000 or more. Okay. At the same restaurant, Shauna is paid a weekly wage of $270 plus $1.50 for each customer she serves. If WS is Shauna's weekly wage in dollars, write a formula for calculating Shauna's weekly wage when she serves M customers. So her weekly wage, guys, WS, would be equal to her base salary or her base weekly wage, which is $270 plus 150 times the number of customers she serves, which is M. So it's exactly like Jenny, except it's her basic one, her like base salary is 270, and instead of earning 90 cents per customer, she earns $1.50. So that's why hers is this. Okay, in a certain week, Jenny and Shauna receive the same wage for serving the same number of customers. How many customers did they each serve? All right, so let's look at this one. So WJ is equal to 600 plus 0.9N. And then WS is equal to 600 plus 1.50M. So it says in a certain week, oh, not, oops, I wrote the wrong thing here. Not 600, 270. Sorry about that. 270 plus 150M. So Jenny, that's her general formula, and Shauna is that. Okay, so how many customers did they each serve? How do you solve this one? Do you solve this by simultaneous equations? Not sure. Let me take a pause and look at this question a little bit.
Yeah.
Right, so yeah. So I did that. So it means that their wages is equal. So this is equal to that. Cool.
Yeah, then you take the 600 equals 270 plus 0.6N.
207. It'll be minus 0. Oh, wait, hold on.
Ma-
Just now, huh? Wait a minute.
It's plus.
Yeah. Let me just,
It's
I
plus.
know why. Because we let this here would have to be the same thing. It would have
Yeah,
to be N. But you see, that's the problem. They should have said this. That's the problem with the question itself. Because if you have N and M, those are two different variables, right? So you wouldn't be able to say 1.50M take away 0.9N because that's N
yeah.
and M. But if they're both N, so really and truly, this should have been the question itself. This should be N. This should not be M. And then it would make sense.
So
It'll
it
make
still take
sense
away
as to what
your
it
plus.
still is. It still is because what it would be, 1 second, Aaron, thank you. That's a lot. That makes a lot of sense. So you are correct in that it will be, you would equate the two equations. You'll say 600 plus 0.9N is equal to 270 plus um 1.50. It should be N. And then you can rearrange to make N the subject. So you're correct. So what you had, you said 600 is equal to 270 plus um 0.6, right? 0.6, Aaron?
Miss, yeah,
Yeah.
0.6.
Because how he got 0.6, guys, 1.5 take away 0.9. So that'll be 270 plus 0.6N. And then what you do next?
I think 330 equals 0.6N.
Yeah.
And
600
then
take away 270 is how he got to the 330.
yeah, N equals, I then put the 330 over 0.6 and I get
Yes,
550. So they each serve 550 customers.
perfect. 330 divided by 0.6, which is 550 customers. Aaron, that's excellent. Excellent work.
Thanks, miss.
Right? So guys, it's you would have to, this would be N, right? For Shauna, it would have to be N, not M, because if it's M, it would represent it, it would be a different variable, and you can only add or subtract the same variable, right? So even though they said in this part you had to represent it in terms of M, in this part you would have to represent it in terms of N because it would have to be the same variable since they are It's the same number of, N represents the number of customers, right? So N represents the number of customers. Beautiful. Okay. Let's look at this one. A store is promoting a new mobile phone under two plans, Plan A and Plan B. The plans are advertised as shown in the table below. For Plan A, you have to make a deposit of $400, a monthly installment of $65. The number of months to repay would be 12, and then the tax on all payments is 0%. Calculate the total cost of a phone under Plan A. So that would be $400, your deposit, plus $65 times the monthly, times the number of months, right? It'll be 400, your deposit, plus 12 monthly installments of $65, and you have no tax on it. So that'll be 400 plus 65 times 12, which is $1,180. $1180. Let me know if anybody got something different, huh? Okay, determine which of the two plans, A or B, is a better deal. Justify your answer. So we already know what is the total cost of a phone under Plan A. So let's check what is the total cost of a phone under Plan B. So that would be 600 is the deposit, right? So under Plan B would be 600 plus 6 monthly deposits of $80. So that would be 6 plus 6 times 80. That is 600 plus 6 times 80, which is $1,080. And then you have to pay a tax on that of 5%. Oh, sorry, it says a 5% on all payments. Anyway, 5% on all payments is the same as doing 5%, finally total, and then finding 5% of that. So 1,080 times 5%, the tax will be, for Plan B, the tax will be $54. So the total that you would pay for the phone under Plan B would be 1,080 plus $54, which is $1,134. So actually, Plan B is the better deal because Plan A is 1,180, while Plan B is 1,134. So Plan B is better. Plan B is better because it's cheaper. By how much money? Let's see. It's cheaper by 1,180 take away 1,134, which is 46. It's cheaper than Plan A by $46. Okay. We go in. We still have a few more, guys. And we still have some time as well. So I'm going down. John's monthly electricity bill is based on the number of kilowatts per hour of electricity that he consumes for that month. He is charged $5.10 per kilowatt per hour of electricity consumed. For the month of March 2016, two meter readings are displayed in the table, the beginning of March and then the ending of March. Calculate the total amount of that John pays for electricity consumption for the month of March 2016. So guys, first of all, we need to find out how many kilowatts per hour of energy he used, right? So it will have to be difference, right? The value that he ended with minus the beginning value. So the kilowatts used would be 3307 minus 3011. So this is how much he would have used in that month, right? The value at the end minus the value at the beginning. That's 3307. Take away 3011. And that gives us 296. So therefore, the total amount that he would pay for that month will be 296 times $5.10, which is equal to, wow, expensive boy, $1,509.60. All right, guys, that would be the answer. For the next month, April, John pays $2,351.10 for electricity consumption. Determine his meter reading at the end of April 2016. So, of course, if this is the ending of March, then we could assume that that will be the beginning of April, right? So, whatever is the amount of kilowatts he used in April, we would have to add that to this one to find out what is the consumption at the end of April, right? So first things first, we need to find out the number of kilowatts used. So to find out the number of kilowatts used here for the month of April, we would have to take the total price that he pays, which is $2,351.10, and divide that by the rate, which is $5.10. And that gives me 2351.1 divided by 5.1 is 461 kilowatts, right? So he used 461 kilowatts per hour in April, right? So to find out the amount, the meter reading at the end of April, well, assuming that the meter reading at the beginning of April is the same as that ending in March, so reading at the beginning, would be, what is it? 3307, because that's how much it was at the end of March, right? 3307. So then the reading at the ending of April will be that plus the amount used in April, which will give me 867, 3,768 kilowatts per hour. Okay, moving right along. Hope everybody is still good. The table below shows the number of tickets sold for a bus tour. Some items in the table are missing. So juvenile, 5 tickets were sold. We do not know the cost of it, but the total cost was $130.50. 14 youth tickets were sold at $44.35 to make a total of Q, which we would need to find. And then the adult ticket R was sold at some value to give you $2,483.60. So first things first, we need to calculate the value of P. To calculate the value of P, if we know the total cost for the number of tickets and the number of tickets sold, we would divide $130.50 divided by 5. So that gives me 130.5 divided by 5 is $26.10. Okay, so $26.10 is how much a juvenile ticket costs. And if you are not sure, you can check it back. $26.10 times 5 gives us $130.50. So we are correct. For the youth ticket, to find out the total cost, we would simply multiply the number of tickets sold by the cost per ticket. So that would be Q is equal to 14 times $44.35. So that gives me 44.35 times 14 is $620.90. Okay. An adult ticket is twice the cost of a youth ticket. Calculate the value of R. Okay. So an adult ticket is twice the cost of a youth ticket. So we already calculated the cost of a youth ticket. The youth ticket is $44.35. So that means an adult ticket will be $44.35 times 2, which is $88.70. So therefore, the number of tickets sold, which is R, right? R is the number of adult tickets sold, will be the total cost divided by the cost of one ticket. So R would be equal to 2483.6, 2483.6 divided by $88.70. Since an adult ticket is twice the cost of a youth ticket, right? So that's 2483.6 divided by $88.70, which is 28. Right? So R is equal to 28. So 28 tickets. Right? The bus company pays taxes of 15% on each ticket sold. Calculate the taxes paid by the bus company. So the bus company pays taxes of 15% on each ticket sold. Calculate the taxes paid by the bus company. Now, I have no clue why this is 3 marks, because the finding 15% of each of these values and then adding it all up is the same as adding these numbers up and then finding 15% of that. So I have no clue why that is with a full 3 marks, but let's go. The total sales, right? Total sales is equal to the amount of money they made for each one, right? So that'll be 130.50, 130.50 plus the amount for Q, which is 620.90, plus the amount made for the adults, which is 2483.60. 2483.60. So that total sales would be 130.5 plus 620.9 plus 2483.6, which is $3,235, right? So that's the total sales there. So then the taxes paid, right? So the 15% tax would be 3235 times 15%, right? Which is 0.15 or 15 over 100, which will give us $485.25. Okay, let's see. Sorry, guys. We're coming to come. We're almost done. All right. So Paul bought and sold a computer. He wrote his business activity as follows. The cost price of the computer is $1,064. The marked price of the computer is $1,399. The discount on the marked price, if paid by cash, is 5%. Calculate the selling price paid by cash. Okay, so he bought and sold the computer. So he bought the computer for $1,064. He sold the computer for $1,399. And then you get a discount if somebody bought it cash, right? So they'll get a 5% off of the 1,399 if they paid by cash. So two ways you could do it. You could find 5% of 1,399 and then minus it, or you could just find 95% of 1,399. Both answers, both ways will give you the correct answer, right? Because of course, if it's a discount of 5%, you'll be paying 9%. You'll be paying 95% of the price. So if you bought it cash, you'll be paying $1,329.05, right? Guys, you could have also just found 5% of the 1399 and then subtract it from 1399. You're still gonna get the same answer. Okay, I just prefer to do one set of working. And then the profit or loss as a percentage of the cost price. Okay, so the cost price is 1,064 and the selling price paid by cash was $1,329.05. So there's a profit because the selling price is more than the cost price. So the profit is 1,329.05 minus 1,064, right? And that would be $265.05. And we need to show this as a percentage of the cost price. So you'll put profit over cost price. That is 265.05 over the cost price, 1,064 times 100. So that is 24.9%. All right, there we go. 264.05 over 1,064 times 100. 24.9%, guys. Y'all, we almost done. I might just do, we'll just go up until 6:30 and then you could finish the rest if we don't, which will just be like a few questions. But I recommend, I already sent the blank sheet, right? And I'll upload it to the Google Classroom as well if you can't open it on your phone. I recommend trying it yourself. And if you're not sure, you could just go and, well, I would send the solutions as well, these written solutions, but you could also go and watch over the video because I'll post it to YouTube afterwards anyway, right? Orange juice is sold in cartons of 3 different sizes, 350 ml size, a 450 ml size, and a 500 ml size. Which size of orange juice is the most cost effective by? Justify your answer. So guys, whenever you need to find out which is the most cost effective, we'll just calculate what's the cost of one, right? Calculate what is the cost of one 1 milliliter or 100 milliliters. But in this case, we'll just do one, right? So for this one, 1 milliliter. So for the 350 ml, right? 1 ml would be equal to $4.20 divided by 350, which gives me, hold on, sorry. Yeah, which gives me 4.20 divided by 350 is 0.012. So let's call that 1 cent, right? Because it's dollars and cents. I'm putting it 3 decimal places. For the 450 ml, the cost of 1 ml would be $5.35 divided by 450, which is 5.35 divided by 450, which is also 0.012, right? If you approximate to 3 decimal places. And of course, it's money. So really and truly, we should be approximating to 2 decimal places, right? So for the one that is 350 ml, it costs 1 cent per ml. And for the one that is 450 ml, it costs 1 cent as well, right? So now let's check what is the 500 ml, how much that would cost. So for 1 ml, for the 500 ml carton size, it will cost 580 divided by 500. So 580 divided by 500. So now we have a unique predicament. All of them, if you calculate 1 ml, it costs 1 cent. So that doesn't tell us anything, right? Now, granted that for 500 ml is 0.0116, and this one was 0.118 or something like that, right? But since it's dollars and cents, another thing you could do is you could find the LCM of 350, 450, and 500 and calculate how much it would be for like the same amount. So what I mean is like, let's say I wanted to buy, let's say I wanted to get, if it was, well, the LCM of 35, 45, and 50 is what, boy? 35 times 3 is 105. So it's not 3, it's 5. Okay, that would, to find the LCM of 35, 45, and 50 would take a little long. And I want to finish this question. So let me go back and work these out to see which one it was. 4.20 divided by 350 is 0.012. 5.35 divided by 450 is 0.011. And then the last one was 5.80 divided by 500, which is 0.016. So the cheapest one would actually be 450 ml, because this one is just 0.011, and the others are 0.012 and 0.0116, right? So this would be the answer because the cost for 1 milliliter is the cheapest. That's one way to do it. The other way, which is the longer way, which is what I would have actually done if we had a little more time, would be to find the LCM of 350, 450, and 500 mLs and see which one is the most cost-effective buy, right? So like for the same amount of juice, which one would I pay the least for? So like, for example, just using some other figures that are easier to find the LCM. Like let's say one of them was let's say this one was 10 ml, and this one was 15 ml, and this one was 30 ml, right? Then all of them, if I want to buy 30 ml of juice, I could represent that. I could buy 3 of these to make up 30 ml, 2 of these to make up 30 ml, or just 1 of these. So if this price here, right, if I multiply that by 2, that will be more than this, right? And if I multiply this by 3, that would also be more than this value. So the most cost-effective buy would be this one, right? So that's one way. But the most tried and proven method of calculating the most cost-effective is to always calculate what is the cost of 1, right? So what is the cost of 1 milliliter? And the cheapest one is the 450 ml carton. You had to take it to 3 decimal places rather than, or even 4 decimal places, because each of them, if you round it off to just 2 decimal places, it will be the same value. So you had to take it to more decimal places. Okay. Um, this question, Thomas invested 1,498 at 6% per simple interest per annum. Calculate the interest in dollars earned after 6 months. Okay, so guys, because this is months, you have to write this as a fraction when you're putting it in the formula, because the formula, simple interest, is equal to principal times rate times time over 100. The time is represented in years. So you would have to represent 6 months as a year, which is a half, right? So you could either do 0.5, you leave it as a decimal, or you could do it as a fraction, which would be 1498 times rate, which is 6, times the time, which is a half, right? And all of this will be over 100. So it'll be 100 times 2 on the bottom instead, right? And that would give us 1468 times 6 times 1 all over 200, which is $44.04. Or you could have done 1498 times 6 times 0.5, all divided by 100, and you're still going to get this answer. Oh, wait, this is 994, sorry. $44.94. The total amount of money in his account after 3 years. Okay, so the total amount of money in his account after 3 years would have to be 1498 times 6 times 3 all over 100, right? Which would give me 1498 times 6 times 3, which is 269.64, and then you add that to 1498, so that would be 1,767.64, right? That would be the total in his account after 3 years. Or you know what you could have done as well? If this is the amount of interest in 6 months, then the amount of interest in 1 year would be 44.94 times 2, right? So the amount of interest in 2 years will be $89.88. And then you multiply that by 3, which will give you the same value, 26964, right? And then you just add it to the principal. You could have done it like that as well. And then it says, how long will it be before his investment earns $449.40? So this $444.94, which is earned in 6 months, if you divide, right, if you divide 449.40 divided by 44.94, I think you're gonna get 10, right? 449.4 divided by 44.94 is 10. So this would be 10. But this is 10 half years, because remember, this is the amount that he earns in 6 months, which is half of a year. So 10 half years, right? 10 half years will actually be 5 whole years. So the answer will be 5 years. Guys, I'm going to leave these last few for y'all to try. And we're going to end there for today because I really think we did enough. But that is
Yep.
actually, yeah, right? I think so too. That is actually, that makes up 10 years basically, because this question we did here is 2016, January 2016, and we started with January 2026. So look how it took us 2 hours, right? So I would recommend doing 2 hours, like your 1.5 to 2 hours of work, of extra work. And you don't have to do it straight like how I did it today. Today was intense in that, I mean, it was just me basically going through the questions and you following along. I hope you were able to follow along with me. And if you didn't, please let me know. If you were confused at any point, if you are doing it by yourself and you're lost, watch the video over. And if you watch it over and you still don't know what to do, let me know. Message me, please, guys. The only way I can help you is if you let me help you, right? If you tell me, Miss, I did this and I didn't understand or whatever, I cannot tell because I'm not seeing you guys. Typically, if I'm seeing you, I would know if you understand or not, right? Because I'll just look at your face. But I don't have the luxury of doing that. So I really want you all to adhere to the times that you told me you're gonna do your extra work. I know that I am yet to make these study timetables for you, so I will get around to doing that. Um, I'm gonna put it high up on my list of priorities so that I could do that for you. But also, just commit to what you have decided. All right. I would suggest trying this worksheet over if you need to. If you find that you were good and you understood everything, fine. Go and do something else that needs more attention. All right, guys. But this exam, you need to practice. You need to practice with actual questions to see how well you understand the language, as well as timing too. All right, guys. So we're gonna stop there for today. I I would like you to finish the rest of it, and yeah, we'll resume next week. Please God.